All right, let's talk about retirement out there. There's about 11,000 people every single day turning 65 in America. It's called the baby boomers from 1946 to 1964. About 70 million people were born. Talk about after World War II and all that kind of good stuff. So, all right. So, um, there's just so much misinformation out there. There's just so many people out there that call them Social Security experts, know all about Social Security, and they tell you if you don't retire at 62, you're dumb. If you don't retire at 67, you're dumb. If you don't retire at 70, you're dumb. Whatever the case may be, and um, stop it. Stop it. I've done thousands of videos in YouTube and TikTok here, and I've helped millions of people out at when I worked at the Social Security Administration, and I never told anybody definitively when they should retire. It's completely 100% a personal decision. And how do you make that personal decision? You ask yourself a bunch of questions. So if I talk to you for about 10 or 15 or 20 minutes personally, then I could probably say, okay, in your particular case, you should, file 62 or 67. But people going out there, them filing at 67 and they say everybody else that doesn't is dumb, that might have been the perfect decision for them if they took everything into consideration, but maybe not. And then we'll also get to a live Q&A here as well. I've already got a bunch of questions, people asking questions about spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits, and all the rest of it. I'll answer as many of those as I can get to today in an hour. And then I want to correct some misinformation. Somebody did a video on Social Security retirement, and people that did not work at the Social Security Administration, that have not read the 20,000 pages of policy, that have not helped, taken hundreds of thousands of retirement claims, disability claims, survivor claims. Stop giving Social Security information. Please. So I will correct the record. This person did a video. Hopefully the person will take it down because it's completely incorrect. A viewer sent me the email with that particular video and it's wrong. So I will correct that today. And then I will also give you a 100% certain. There is one time that I can tell you 100% when you should retire. So, all right, let's get into all of this today. All right, so if you file for benefits before your full retirement age, obviously they're reduced. And so there's a lot of questions there. So whether you want the reduction, if you file at 62, then you're looking at about a 30% reduction for the rest of your life. There's about to put little air quotes there because they can change. Well, they will change based on COLA and everything, but there's other things. Okay, but if you wait until your full retirement age, you get your full benefit amount. If you wait till after your full retirement age, you get your full benefit amount plus 8% every year you wait. So if you start your benefits at 70 and your full retirement age is 67, then you get an extra 24%. Okay. All right. So when you start your Social Security benefits is important. And when I say retire, we'll talk about Social Security. When I say retire, I'm talking about starting your Social Security benefits because there's a lot of people that start their Social Security benefits and continue to work, which is fine. Okay. So here's some questions you need to ask yourself about when you should retire. Number one, do you need the money? If you're 62 years old and you need the money, slam dunk, get your benefits. However, if you're working, there's a limit. This year, if you're under your full retirement age, the limit is $23,400. Anything over that, Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. The year you turn your full retirement age, it like triples. This year, it's $62,160 for the months before you hit your full retirement age. Once you hit your full retirement age, you can go back to making $1 billion a month. No relevance whatsoever. It doesn't hurt your Social Security at all. It actually improves your Social Security. Okay, so working is important. And here's where this person that made this video was incorrect. There is the annual earnings limit, and then there's the monthly earnings limit. The first year you start your Social Security benefits, Social Security doesn't care how much you made before you start your Social Security benefits. So if you're going to start your benefits in July and you made $1 billion from January to June, Social Security doesn't care. They just ask you, hey, starting July, how much are you going to make starting July? And as long as you're under the monthly earnings limit, which is $1,950, you're good for the rest of the year. $1,950 in July, $1,950 in August, $1,950 in September. And as long as you stay under $1,950 every month for the rest of the year, you can go ahead and collect your Social Security benefits. Doesn't matter what you made before that. And then next year, you go back to the regular annual earnings limit. And this is where that social media person, financial experts got it all wrong. They read in Social Security that starting in 2026, you go back to the annual, and they assumed that that was for everybody. And I pulled up, there's this great thing, it's called the Wayback Machine. And possibly some people, oh, the Wayback Machine, I love the Wayback Machine. It's basically, you can go back to this Wayback Machine and you can see what a website looks like last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's pretty awesome. So let me show you the Wayback Machine here. This is, I put in the Wayback Machine for the Social Security Administration for 2019. So what, 6 years ago. And then it's talking about that special earnings limit, the monthly earnings limit the first year. And then it says, beginning in 2020, the deductions are based on the annual earnings limit. And if you go back to 2015, it'll say based on beginning in 2016, the annual earnings limit. So they didn't change the law, which this person says they changed the Social Security policy. They changed the law so there's no more monthly. No, they didn't change it. It just, you can only use that monthly earnings limit one time. There is an exception that nobody uses, but anyway, that's a problem with Social Security. There's over 20,000 pages of policy, and if you don't know it, please don't talk about it, basically. Anyway, so no, the law hasn't changed. It just, if you use the monthly earnings limit this year, you can't use it again next year. You use it the first year you retire, and then next year you have to go the annual, you use the annual. So next year, whatever it is going to be next year, $24,000, $25,000, you can't use the monthly earnings limit again. So beginning in 2026, you have to use the annual earnings limit. Not again, next year it'll be in 2027 and 2028. So please, the person, you know who you are. I sent a comment on the video, and please take it down, take that video down. A lot of people are going to get misinformation. Okay, so that's the monthly earnings limit. And by the way, I was looking for that same current information on the Social Security website, the current Social Security website. And I don't know if y'all heard, but I hate saying it, Big Balls. The infamous Big Balls, the young kid programmer that was with Doge, he was at the GSA, the General Services Administration. Guess what? He's now at Social Security. He's in charge of the website. And I don't know if this was his fault, but I looked at the website today and it sucks. I was trying to find information on, that's a technical term, by the way, it sucks. Yeah, sorry, old Marine Corps sergeant, can't get away from it. Anyway, so I was trying to find information on the monthly earnings limit, and there's nothing there. It's gone. Yeah, this website is not good. If you go to my website, mygovexpert.com, you will go in there and it'll tell you when you should start. I've even got a calculator in there, and on the working and benefits, guess what? It gives you big long thing about earnings, the annual and monthly earnings limit, and which one should you use, and all the rest of it. So I've got all that information and a great little calculator down there, tells you what income counts, what income doesn't count, and everything like that. So make sure you check out my website. I always thought it was far, far better than SSA.gov. And thanks to our friend Big Balls, I hate calling him, I don't remember his name, so that's what I'm going to call him. So anyway, now my website is 100 times better than the SSA.gov website. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so let's get back to the questions you should ask yourself when you're thinking about retiring. Okay, if you need the money, take the money. But remember, There might be an earnings limit or a monthly earnings limit. Make sure you understand the difference. There's a lot of people that say, well, because I made over 23,400 this year, I can't apply, so I will have to wait till next year. And they're losing, 6 or 7 months of benefits. So make sure you know that difference. Okay. Auxiliaries. What's an auxiliary? If you start your benefits, maybe there's someone that's eligible to start their benefits because you are starting your benefits, like a spouse, your current spouse. Your current spouse is currently receiving Social Security benefits or not entitled because they didn't work, whatever the case may be, but they cannot get spouse benefits until you start getting benefits on your own record. That is for a spouse. A divorced spouse, you don't have to wait for that person, but a current spouse, you have to be receiving benefits for the spouse to receive benefits. If you have children under the age of 18 or that became disabled before the age of 22, they can get benefits on your record if you start receiving those benefits. So people come in here all the time and says, well, I was thinking about, starting my benefits at 67 or 70 or something like that, so I could get more money. And says, okay, all right, that's great. And ask a few questions. It turns out they got 1 or 2 kids. And I'm like, okay, well, if you wait 5 years, your children are not going to get 5 years of benefits, and your children get up to 50% of your benefit amount. So there's that. And they're like, oh, crap. Okay, guess I'm not going to wait for 5 years. I'm going to start benefits now. So my child can get child benefits, and my spouse can get child and care benefits, which is a thing. Check out my website on that. I don't want to get too deep into the all of the externalities there. Okay. Another question, health. If you're not too healthy, and your genes in your family, longevity, hopefully you'll be able to break, get over the gene things and, longevity, increase longevity in your family going forward. But anyway, that's another consideration. If you're not too healthy and, most of the people, pass early in your particular family, might be a good idea to go ahead and consider starting those benefits early. Okay. Taxes. I don't necessarily talk about taxes, but you need to consider taxes if you're in a particular tax bracket, and adding Social Security benefits to that tax bracket puts you in a higher tax bracket, and which defeats the whole purpose of you retiring early. Yeah, might be a good idea to consider waiting. If you can invest, if you're like, well, 8% per year, if I get that money and I put it in, whatever, Bitcoin or Dutch tulips or the old Bitcoin, then I can make a lot more money. So, more power to you. Politics. I've never really added this. I just added this within the last few months. Before the current administration, I started adding this, but basically the Social Security Trustees report just came out and said, hey, Social Security, look, it's about 2033 or 2034, we're going to get about a 20% cut in benefits. So some people say, well, before that cut starts, I might as well just go ahead and start getting my benefits now. And that way, when the cuts start, at least I've got the full benefit amount in my pocket. So, all right. So those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And is it written in stone that, okay, if you start your benefits this month, and because you've considered all those factors, and then you change your mind. Can you change your mind? Yes, absolutely, you can change your mind. So basically what it is if you go ahead and start receiving your Social Security benefits, and within 12 months, you change your mind for whatever reason, doesn't matter. Social Security doesn't care why you change your mind. But within 12 months, you can withdraw your application, a complete withdrawal. You file SSA 561, tell them you want to withdraw it, but you have to pay all that money back. The whole process isn't over until your check clears the bank and you pay all those benefits back, because you're essentially withdrawing the application like it never happened. So you can do that within 12 months. And also, if you retire early, let's say you retire at 62 years old, and then, like me, after a week, you said, wow, retirement is not for me, and you start doing crazy stuff like this. But in your case, you start making some money, and let's say next year you say, oh gosh, I was just offered this job. I can make a lot of money, but I'm receiving Social Security. I don't want to get in trouble. So I guess I'll just go ahead and, decline the job. No, do it. if you're going to make just a little over 23,400, might be a good idea just to go ahead, forget about calling Social Security, and then just wait for the, the overpayment, and you just pay the overpayment or make a, a payment plan or something. But if you're going to make considerably more, then you can just call Social Security and say, hey, I'm going to make, $80,000 this year, and they will hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. And you won't necessarily lose those benefits. If you don't get a month of benefits, once you hit your full retirement age, that month is essentially recalculated in there. It increases your benefits. You don't get that month check. Here's how it works. If you start your benefits 30 months early, your benefit amount is reduced by 30 months. And let's say you go back to work after 10 months. So you only get 10 months of checks. You don't get the other 20 because they withhold the $1 for every $2 you go over. Once you hit your full retirement age, they recalculate that. You hit your full retirement age, you start your benefits up. They don't reduce you by 30 months because you didn't get 30 months. You only got 10. They just reduce you by 10 months going forward for the rest of your life. So you have opportunities, a withdrawal, or just go ahead and suspend your benefits. So, and again, those are recalculated later. All right. So what is the one way, 100% foolproof way to know when you should start your benefits? And again, you just have to take your best guess, because the only time we can tell you, anybody can tell you when you should have taken your benefits, you probably understand, I just used past tense, right? Is when you shuffle off your mortal coil, is when you leave us all. And then at that day, we can look back and say, okay, based on this person's longevity and how many checks they received, oh yeah, that person should have definitely filed at 62. Oh, that person should have definitely filed at 70 years old. So until then, you just make your best guess, and remember, you do have some opportunity to kind of mess around, and withdraw your benefits and all the rest of it. Again, on my website, mygovexpert.com, you click on the little retirement section there, you click on when to start, and let me show you a little when to start benefits calculator that I built. Let's say you're February 14th. Oh, I picked Valentine's Day that wasn't on purpose. Or as I call it, the annual meeting of the Procrastinators Club, Valentine's Day. That's when all the guys, we all meet at Walgreens and buy chocolate and whatever's left over in the floral section because we forgot it was Valentine's Day. So anyway, there's that. So let's go ahead and let's put that this person received 1741. Oh, why is it not? Let's put 25. Okay. And then you calculate your benefits there, and it'll tell you, this is the little thing. So if whatever your benefit amount is, if you collected that amount at 62 years old, here's how much you would receive over your lifetime, that blue line. So you see at about 80 years old, there's kind of a break-even point. If that person had started benefits at 70, they would be losing benefits for a while, but when they hit 80, then when they hit, 84, it really starts to break out. So if that person lives until 94 years old, over their lifetime, they would have made, again, this is not adjusted for inflation or COLAs because we don't know what those are. These are absolute numbers. So if that person had filed at 70 years old over their lifetime, if they passed at 94, they would have made $897,000. If they had started at 62, then they would have only made $675,000. So that's a big chunk. But again, we don't know where on this chart. Well, everybody, my regular viewers, we're all going to break the 100. So I'm going to have to add the 120 mark here for all my regular viewers because they are awesome. So, all right. So let's get into some questions here on all of that. So make sure you type your questions, and I've also got a couple of video questions that people sent in, so I'm going to answer the video questions as well. Let's see here. Our first one will be William. What's up, William? Question is, spouse is collecting survivor benefits, but recently took a new job earning far over the income limit of $23,000. Okay. Spouse not full retirement age. Will she get any of her survivor benefits? Yes. So this is an important thing. Thanks, William. So when Social Security talks about retirement, it's not only retirement benefits on your record, but it's also retirement benefits on a spouse or a deceased spouse. So survivor benefits are still the same type of regulations in terms of the earnings limit, the monthly earnings limit, 1 for 2, and all that kind of stuff. Spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce, they're all the same in terms of that annual and monthly earnings limit. So not full retirement age. So if she's already collecting survivor benefits, she can work if she's under full retirement age. If she's going to make over the 23,400, it really depends how much over. If she's only going to make, $1 or $2, $3,000 over, you can call Social Security and say, "Hey, I'm going to make $3,000 over," and they will stop your check essentially for a month or two, depending on how much your check is. That's one strategy. What a lot of people do is they say, "Forget about it. I'm not going to sit on the phone for 3 hours and, try to stop my benefits for a month or two and then get on the phone for another 3 hours next year to restart my benefits." And so people say, "You know what? Forget about it. I am just going to not do anything." And then next year, when the IRS and your employer notifies Social Security how much you made, they're going to say, "Hey, you made 26,000. You made $3,000 over your annual earnings limit. You owe us $1,500 because $1 for every $2 you go over." And they'll just send you a nasty letter that says, "You owe us $1,500. Pay us now." And if you knew about it, then you're like, "Okay, whatever." And you can pay it now, but almost nobody pays it the full benefit amount, the full amount. They usually just set up a payment plan. You can go up to 60 months. So you can pay a little bit from your Social Security check over 60 months. So, and there is a lot of changes recently on all of that. When DOGE took over Social Security, they're still in charge of Social Security. The current commissioner of Social Security is a DOGE guy. Got our friend Big Balls is in there. Yeah. So yeah, got to remember the guy's name. I'm tired of calling him that. But anyway, in terms of overpayment on all of that, I've got a section there on overpayments, and it tells you how to do it, how to fight an overpayment, your appeal rights, how people get overpaid, and all the rest of it. But once DOGE took over, they changed the policy. It used to be they would withhold 10% of your payment to repay the overpayment. Then DOGE came in, they says, hold my beer, 100%. And then there was much outcry throughout the country, including viewers of this channel, and we made him, moderate that a little bit. So now the current policy, if it hasn't changed again, is 50%. But if you contact them, so this is kind of the default withholding rate if you go over, if you have an overpayment. So, but if you contact them immediately and set up a payment plan, again, you can do up to 60 months, then you'll, 3,000 divided by 60 months. So that's the way to do it. All right. So hopefully that answered your question, that, she can take the job, just suspend the benefits depending on how much you're going to make. If it's going to be way, way over, then yeah, I would definitely call, or she'll have to pay everything back. So good evening, everyone. What an eventful news day. Yes. All kinds of crazy stuff out there. Is there any way that we, the people, can know the names of everyone who works in DOGE? Yeah, that's interesting. They were talking about, we're going to be the most transparent. We're so awesomely transparent that we put all the, the wall of receipts. So there's a website, but if you go in there, it's the worst website. You can't, check stuff. You can't search stuff. When they first came out, you could check Social Security Administration, how much they supposedly saved, which they didn't, by the way. Really. They never found those 20 million people receiving Social Security benefits. That disappeared from the news because they weren't. But yeah, they are very, very secretive. And the Supreme Court now let them be even more secretive. So unfortunately. Let's see. Doc, I found the page with the earnings limit on the Social Security website. It links to a special rule. I have it right here, but it is listed under what I consider a wrong heading, though. Yeah, they don't make it easy. I'm sure it's deep in there somewhere. And when I was going through the Wayback Machine in 2019, it was right there. Like it's been for decades, right there. But I looked at it today, And yeah, it's just, you can't find it. Shari, can Social Security make you take retirement at 62? Yes. If you are receiving SSI. If you're receiving SSI, which is the welfare-based program, supplemental security income, that's SSI. People confuse SSA with SSI. SSI is a welfare-based program that Social Security administers. And because it is a welfare needs-based program, if that comes out of general taxation, it doesn't come out of the Social Security Trust Fund. It comes out of general taxation. So Social Security has an obligation to take care of, to take care of taxes, make sure they're overseen correctly. So if you're receiving that needs-based, welfare-based program of SSI and you have any money out there in the world, you have to get it. So if you're receiving, the max this year is $967 from SSI, and you are now eligible to receive retirement benefits at 62 and get $500, then you have to get it. And what happens, it'll offset. So if you get $500 from retirement benefits, then they'll offset that from your SSI, and you'll get basically $467 from SSI and the other $500 from Social Security. But yes, in that case, yes. Every other case, no. They don't make you do it unless you're trying to file for spouse benefits or something. If you want to file for spouse benefits, then you have to start benefits on your own record first. And before, you didn't have to do that, but that law was changed in 2016. So, Steve, I heard something, if due to tariffs and prices go up and jobless rate gets high, it would affect Social Security eligibility. Don't understand, would this be new people signing up or current folks? So it wouldn't necessarily affect eligibility, but it would affect the benefits and the how long the trust fund is going to be around. Because when you get higher inflation, and tariffs cause higher inflation because we have to pay, the tariffs. It's not a foreign country that pays the tariffs. It's passed down like everything. It's to us, people on the street. So that causes higher inflation. And when they come out with the COLA numbers in October, COLA is based on the inflation. So if we have, high, let's say 10%, then 10% COLA for 2026. So they have to pull more money out of the trust fund. So then therefore next year when the Social Security trustees do their report, it's not going to be 2033 that we're going to get cuts. It'll be 2032. And then if something else stupid happens, it'll be 2031. And then, yeah, we've known about this for decades, but yeah, we and our politicians have failed to fix it. So yes, tariffs will hurt the trust fund and subsequently cut our benefits deeper and sooner. So, James, if I are 62 with a terminal illness, can you elect a lump sum election of your Social Security retirement benefits and forego all monthly future Social Security retirement payments? No, unfortunately not. No, nothing like that. But if you are 62 and have a terminal illness, it's called a Terry case, I would file for disability benefits immediately. So a Terry case, when you file for disability, I've taken hundreds of thousands of disability claims, and when it's a Terry case, terminal illness like this, if you have, the doctor's report, or, what that shows that, I've had cases where I've taken the application in the morning, 9 or 10 o'clock, and by the end of the day, it was approved, or the next day it was approved. And when you receive disability benefits, your benefits are not reduced. If you filed for regular retirement at 62, then your benefits are going to be reduced by 30%. But if you were approved for disability benefits, there is no reduction based on taking it early. So I would do that immediately. That's for a Terry. If you are just regular disability, you have a disability, there is a thing called rib dib. So if you're 62, 63 or whatever, 64, and you want to go ahead and file for retirement benefits, but you're also not working because of a disability, or you reduced your work because of a disability, you can file for disability at the same time. You won't get both. You'll get whatever is higher once you're approved. But basically why people do it is because disability application, and if it's not a Terry case or a wounded warrior or something, a military hurt in active duty, then your case takes, months and months and months. Even worse now because Doge, vacated a lot of people from the agency. So people can't wait. So they file for the retirement benefits and start getting a check on a monthly basis while they're waiting for their disability claim to be decided. So that is a possible way to get around. But yeah, if you have a terminal, please file immediately. File immediately. One of the unfortunate things is there's also a 5-month waiting period. So nobody gets Social Security benefits in the first 5 months. There's a bill in Congress to end that, but yeah, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, unfortunately, because the billionaires need more money. So we need to give it up for them. Cut Medicaid and all the rest of it. Penelope, what's up? If someone were on SSI, then SS might require them to apply for their SS at 62. Otherwise, no. Yep. Penelope is always right. She is too awesome. Nancy, hey, what's up, Nancy? How we doing today? I'd like to know how hard it is just to smash the freaking cap. Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about it for decades, so I don't think it's because the people in charge are, the sponsors of the politicians, the people with the big money. And if we smash the cap, then they're going to pay FICA like the rest of us, and they don't want to do that. So it's the golden rule. Those were the gold rules. So it's unfortunate, unless we have a mass movement to do it. But yeah. Sherry, oh, okay. That's why they made me go on retirement. I was on SSI, even though I've been disabled from the start of receiving SSI. Yes. So you were on SSI, so they made you file for retirement. And I understand the kind of the predicament here, because it doesn't make sense. And shame on us for trying to make the government make sense, right? But I can see the point. Okay, here it is. You're on SSI, Social Security, the needs-based program. And because that's coming out of general funds, to save taxpayer money, if you have other money out there, just like if you hit the lottery and win $1 million, you can't say, well, no, I want to continue my SSI. I'll hold the $1 million till later. No, you got to go get that money. But in terms of retirement benefits, you're saying, okay, if I get 62, if I start my benefit of retirement at 62, it'll be reduced by 30%. And so that's, not enough. So let's say it's $700. So I'll get $700. So that means, I'll continue to get SSI from the trust fund. But if I'm allowed to wait till I'm full retirement age, I'll get $1,000. So I will get off of SSI. If I wait until 70, it'll be 24. I'll get $1,240. So I definitely won't need SSI, and it'll help me out so much more if I just wait. That is 100% correct. That's the kind of catch-22 kind of nightmares. If you were allowed to wait, you would make more for the rest of your life, and you would possibly get completely off SSI. But unfortunately, yeah, that's not the way it is. So, all right, let's see. Kim, exactly. Retire when it's best for you. Once you know what's best for you in terms of all the questions and, do you have an out and stuff like that. But yes, don't let anybody, I'm tired of these videos out there that says, if you don't retire at 62 or 65, you're dumb, because that's what I did. Well, congratulations to you. So, okay, 690 watching and only 161 are likes. So please like to help others know what's up with Social Security. Yes, please. And then we're going to come up with, I'll break it out to my regular viewers here, but I'm going to do another video on this, on my website, my new thing, which I'm going to get to those questions here pretty soon. Oh, unfortunately, I can't. On the bottom, it's cut off here, but on the bottom left of my website, there's a little button that says question or comment. So you can click on that little button. Let me go ahead and just click on it right now. there's a little camera there on the bottom left, and you click on it and it goes into this little program here. And it says, hey, this is Ed. If you want to ask me a question, click this little button right here and you can record your question. So here is the challenge I am putting out there to everybody. Grab your phone and go out into your community, and your senior centers, places of worship, restaurants, wherever, bridge club, whatever the case may be. And if you have someone that has a question, grab your phone, go to my website, mygovexpert.com, click on that little thing, and then put it in your friend's face and say, okay, that question, here, ask Ed. And then I will answer it. So you can go out there and help your community, help your friends and family, and get their specific questions answered. Because the problem with Social Security is, again, there's exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions. So we want to make sure we help everybody we possibly can. So this is your new challenge, your new mission in life, to go out there and find people and make those videos. So let's do it. Okay, speaking of those videos, let's watch a couple right now, and I will answer those specific questions.
She recently lost her husband, actually 2 years ago. Did not know about the death benefits. Is she still able to obtain that? And also, she was told that she can't get the 100% of her husband's benefits because of his PERS. And I was wondering, is that correct? If it isn't correct, then how does she go about getting 100%? She is 77 this year. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And for future restaurant, let's turn off the TV in the background. So if there's music playing on the TV, then YouTube, kicks this video off, and because they hear music that I haven't paid for. So, all right. All right. So I think you're talking about the lump sum death payment that that she didn't file for 2 years ago. Probably that one-time payment of $255. There's like a 2-year limitation to where you can apply for that. But in terms of survivor benefits, no. If you discover you're eligible for survivor benefits, there is no statute of limitation in terms of that. If you mess up and don't start it until 77 or 87 or 97, then yeah, do it. And then if it's a Social Security mistake because they didn't do their thing or they gave you wrong information, then make sure you fight that and appeal that the decision and say, hey, no, I want my benefits to start a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago when I first contacted you. So always fight, for your rights. All right. So in terms of the pension, if you would have asked me that 7 months ago, I would have said, yes, that does affect her Social Security benefits. But now, because of the Social Security Fairness Act, the Unfairness Act, if you ask me, but anyway, in that particular case, no, it doesn't affect her anymore. So the windfall elimination provision, the government pension offset, no effect whatsoever anymore. So tell her to file if she's not receiving if her benefit if she's already filed for if she's already receiving the survivor benefits, but her benefit was reduced because of that pension, the government pension, state, local, federal government pension, then her benefits should have already increased. They've already adjudicated, they've already corrected 90% of those records, but maybe hers fell through the cracks. So if her benefits hasn't increased in the last 2 or 3 or 4 months, then she needs to contact Social Security and say, hey, what's going on? What happened to my increase based on the Social Security Fairness Act? So there's that. Someone says, Anne, you're get to the question. So yes, the when to take Social Security benefits took a little bit longer than normal. So, all right, let me get one. I only had 2 video questions today, so let me go ahead and get to the other one.
The insurance trust fund is good for a long, long time. So if I'm on disability and I made $200 over the income, would that hurt my disability?
All right. Especially if you got that idiot in the background talking, make sure you turn that guy off. That's me by the end of in the background. Okay, so if you're on disability benefits, you make over $200. It really depends what we're talking about here, because on disability, there is, different earnings limits. If you're talking about, if you're in your trial work period, and I've got all of the details on here, there's a calculator there, and there's a little handy guide, Dr. Ed's Insider Guide to Work Incentives. But if you're in what's called the trial work period, then you're good. So you can make $1 billion over if you're receiving just regular SSDI, then it's not an issue. If you're on SSI, supplemental security income, then that just might affect your benefits. It's just a, basically 50% offset there. So I would contact Social Security, because I'm not sure what type of benefits you're receiving, and if you're in your child work period or if you're in your extended period of eligibility, contact Social Security. And in the old days, before Doge, each area had what's called an AWIC, an Area Work Incentives Coordinator, and they were like really supposed to be specialists on working and receiving disability benefits, and helping you jump through all the hoops. But those were usually the really senior, really experienced people, and most of the senior experienced people have been kicked out by Doge. But contact whoever's left and say, hey, I made $200 over, and what period am I in? And am I in my trial work period? Does it matter? How many trial work period months have I used? You can use 9 months, and then get all that information, and that way you know if you have any issues going forward. So, our flowers. I am going to be 64 this November. Decided to apply for Social Security. I believe some of the income they are showing is incorrect. What amount on the tax return should it match? Do you know what line? So it is, if you're looking at, if it's a W-2 type thing, it's the gross income. It'll say on the W-2, Social Security wages. If we're looking at, if you're self-employed, it's net income after, expenses, before taxes, but after, your net income. So it's your net income. If you're W-2, it's your gross income. So Bella, hey, what's up, Bella? I had my mom get her Social Security at 62. She saved all her own checks in an account, invested her dollars, and did very well at 70. She's 82 now. Glad she enjoyed her Social Security early and invested her Social Security checks. Yep, there we go. Awesome. So yeah, it is a completely personal decision that if you answer, again, you're never going to get it perfect. The only way you can know 100% is when it's too late. So, thanks for the clarification on the earnings limit. Appreciate it. You are welcome. Eliminate the FICA cap, which is now around 173,000 for singles. Make everyone pay on all their income. Exactly like the rest of us, right? The rest of us pay on all our income. So why shouldn't the people that make over $176,100 pay on all their income? So, I got some questions on some other, let's say, is there even a way to retire with dignity at 65? Well, financially, it really depends on your situation, but yeah, dignity is, how you see the world, I guess, right? I don't want to get philosophical there, turn into a Dr. Phil, even into Dr. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. SSDI turned 62. Do I call and get SSI? Okay, yeah, that's, okay. So you were thinking SSI is Social Security, but SSI is the welfare-based program. If you're already receiving SSDI, it doesn't sound like it applies to you. But, okay, if you are receiving SSDI, Once you hit your full retirement age, your SSDI, your Social Security Disability Insurance, just turns into regular retirement benefits. So it's not an issue. You don't have to do anything at 62. You do nothing. The only thing, if you're receiving disability benefits, I always say this pretty much every time we talk about this, is because there's so many people out there that are not getting these benefits, is if you're receiving SSDI, when you turn 60, check to see if you're eligible for any surviving spouse benefits, because you can start surviving benefits at 60 and it won't affect your disability. You can still get disability, you'll still get your Medicare, you'll just get more from survivor benefits if there's more available there. If you're 62, you can get spouse benefits and divorce spouse benefits, or independently entitled divorce spouse benefits on top of your disability benefits. One offsets the other, but so check that out. That's the only thing you should do at 62. When you hit 65, then if you're on disability, you should see whether, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, check to see if you can switch to a Medicare supplement plan based on your budget. Because when you hit 65, unlike prior to 65, in most places, they can refuse a Medicare supplement plan for you, a Plan N or a Plan G. Those are the ones I always recommend. And if you're turning 65, you can call Chapter, who supports this channel and sponsors our live Q&A here, and they can help you out with all things Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, Plan N, Plan G, Plan D, the prescription drug plan, and all the rest of it. So contact them for 100% free help. How long can you draw survivor benefits when you marry at 60? If you remarry after 60, you can draw them for another 60 years, because you're going to be around till 120 years old. So pretty much forever. So that is one exception. Usually if you get married, then your benefits as a spouse, divorce spouse, end. But for surviving spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, surviving divorce spouse benefits, if you get remarried after 60, you're good. And that changed a few decades ago. It was actually called the kind of the living in sin law, kind of. That's how they, talked about it at the time, because there were a lot of people out there that they lost a spouse, and they were collecting, surviving spouse benefits. And then after a few years, they find another love of their life and they get remarried, but they didn't get remarried because that would have stopped their surviving spouse benefits. So Congress, a compassionate Congress, and I think that's a contradiction in terms, but anyway, they decided, says, if someone loses a spouse, that's tough. And, they go on with their life and they find someone, a new love of their life, but they don't want to get married to that person and commit to that person because it's going to stop their surviving spouse benefits. That's not right. We should let them, get married and live the rest of their life like that. So that's when they changed the law that says, okay, if it's after 60, yeah, you can go ahead and get married and it won't affect your Social Security benefits. So, my husband was retired Army. I get survivor benefits. Could I also possibly get a pension raise? Pension, survivor benefits, everybody's benefits, increase based on COLA. But if you're receiving survivor benefits, no, it's just basically a COLA increase. If you're receiving benefits on your own record and you continue to work, then that does increase your benefit amount if it's one of your high 35 years. But other than that, no. Joey, will the AUX child benefits and child and care benefits continue while living abroad? All U.S. citizens? Yep, 100%. Yep, if you're all U.S. citizens, as long as you don't move to North Korea or Cuba, you are good. So basically what he means is he's receiving retirement benefits or disability benefits, whatever the case may be. He has children under the age of 18 or that became disabled before the age of 22. And then his spouse is also receiving benefits on his record because she is taking care of his child or their child, and the child is under the age of 16 or became disabled before the age of 22. So that's called child in care benefits. So absolutely, you can live anywhere in the world and continue to get those benefits. So Can I switch to SSI starting Social Security at 65 this year? They will go back to March. Social Security says I have to reapply if I can't give identification information in 1 month, waiting for IDs in mail. So SSI is the welfare-based program. You have to have low income, low resources, and not be eligible for more than $967 in some other program. So, but you probably don't mean SSI. So everybody makes that mistake. So if they requested documentation and it's taking you time to get it, then it's taking you time to get it. Don't worry about it. Done this hundreds of thousands of times when I worked at Social Security. They want to get your case off their desk because they've got 400 other cases. So they the clock is ticking for them. And Social Security has so many metrics. When I was a manager, I used to, control those metrics and say, hey, how come your average processing time was, 2 weeks for retirement claims? They shouldn't be 2 weeks. And well, I had Paula and she wouldn't provide her documents. And so it ruined my processing time. And so that's the issue. They want to get that case, your case, adjudicated, and so it doesn't mess up their processing time, which is a good thing, right? But if you don't have your documents, you don't have your documents. So there's nothing can be done. So you just wait for your documents, give it to them, and then if the person that's doing it, if you don't contact them, they will deny your claim because lack of evidence. But it's no big deal. They just, once you get the evidence, they reopen it. It's done. I never did that. I just gave the people time, rather than freaking them out and stuff. So hopefully the person that's helping you out doesn't do that just to, because of their own processing time. They just say, okay, yeah. You just call them up and say, yeah, next week, I should definitely get it next week. And they say, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. So, but if they do something stupid like deny it, it's no big deal. You just reopen it and yeah, it's no big deal. So Rick, call Congress and demand they fix Social Security instead of constantly kicking the can down the road. Yes, 100%. They've been kicking the can down the road for 30 years. And then it becomes a sky is falling. Sometimes people come in here and says, Ed, they've been talking about this for decades. Why don't you shut up about it? Well, because we haven't done it. We haven't fixed it. That's why we need to keep talking about it, because they keep ignoring us. They keep distracting us with, shiny objects. When will I start receiving recalculated Social Security benefits after the filing tax return for 2024 in March? Started Social Security benefits a year ago and still working. Okay, good question. Thank you, Skin Tune. So for 2024, if you made more money last year than, your high 35 years of earnings, then you've done your taxes and everything, and then the IRS will notify Social Security. Social Security will look at that and they'll say, hey, is this one of this person's high 35 years of earnings? Yes, it is. They kick out the low one, stick in the new one, recalculate, and your benefits are increased. And then they make it retroactive until, January of this year, so you don't lose anything. It really depends. You just did it in March. Well, if you did it in March, if you did it in March, then it should have already taken place, but it takes a few months sometimes. Last year we've had people in the live Q&A and said, hey, I just got an increase, and it was in October. And I'm like, okay, how much was the increase? Oh, that was based on your earnings for last year. So some people don't get it till like the end of the year, but they make it retroactive. So if you're going to get $10 a month more and they don't, do the final calculations until October, starting October, you'll get $10 a month more. Plus you'll get a $90 one-time check for the first 9 months. So they'll make it right. Anne Murray, not the Canadian singer Anne Murray, because you don't have the final E in your name, right? So, and I think she's already passed away. So anyway, what is the employment data SSDI is asking to put your name in to see you have been employed with? When did they start doing this? Employment data SS. Not sure what that refers to. If you're receiving SSDI, if they're asking about work type things, then that sounds like a work CDR, a work-based continuing disability review. So the local Social Security Administration got a flag, an alert that says, hey, Ann is receiving disability benefits, but looks like she's making some money. So they send out the forms to you and to fill out and says, hey, it looks like you're making money. We want to make sure you don't get overpaid or underpaid or whatever the case may be. Tell us where you're working, how much you're making, and all that kind of stuff. So that is a normal procedure. So let's see here. Hello, Blue Sky. I'm going to be 65 in December. I received, and then they got cut off. Nothing else. So if you're going to be 65 in December, so the key about 65 is, number one, it's no longer the full retirement age. 65, the action needs to be taken about Medicare. If you're approaching 65, 10,000 people turn 65 every day, then you need to figure out Medicare. If you are currently receiving Blue Sky, if you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, you don't have to do anything. They will send you your Medicare. They will sign you up for Part A and Part B automatically. You'll get your card in the mail about 3 months before your birthday. If you are currently receiving health insurance from current work, yours or your spouse's, your employer has 20 more employees, then you can refuse Part B. Save yourself the $185. If you're not receiving Social Security benefits and you want Medicare to start Part A, Part B, or just Part A or whatever, then you need to contact Social Security, file online or whatever the case may be, and start that to be effective in December. And then you have to figure out what you want to do to cover all the gaps, because there's a lot of gaps in original Medicare. Part A, there's gaps. Part B is the big gap where you pay 20% co-insurance. So if you get a $100,000 Band-Aid, you have to pay $20,000 out of your pocket. So that's why people get either a Medicare supplement plan, the plan N, G, or they get a Medicare Advantage plan, whichever one is best for you. It's just, it's like retirement. Nobody can tell you that a Medicare supplement plan N or a plan G or a Medicare Advantage is best for you. It's based on your particular situation. If I had mine, I would say everybody get a plan N or a plan G, but everybody's different. So, and again, you can reach out to our sponsors there, Chapter Medicare, and they can tell you what the difference between a plan N and a plan G and Medicare Advantage and all the rest of the stuff. So definitely reach out to them and they can help you out. Jerry, Ed, I retired at 62 and applied for SSDI on 1024, did CE, which is the consultative exam. So that is a Social Security contracted doctor that does, checks stuff as well. Now waiting for a decision letter. How long do I wait? Yeah, it's unfortunate. When I was taking disability claims back in the day, a few years ago, me and everybody else, we used to tell people you'll get a decision within 3 to 6 months. Over the last year or so, because of, Social Security is at a 50-year low in terms of staffing, they've been telling people in 9 to 12 months. And then since Doge, got rid of a bunch of people, now pretty much all bets are off. So how do we fix that? We contact our politicians and say, hey, why are you trying to prevent us from getting our benefits by not providing people to help us navigate the bureaucracy and help us get our benefits? And so it's politicians who are doing this to us. Peggy, BB requested to be called. That refers to something that happened in high school that okay, I'm not sure what, all right, what, Michelle, I started my first year of Social Security in January of this year. Will I be under the monthly or yearly income limits? You started your Social Security in January. You're going to be under the yearly, because there is no months before you started your benefits. You started your benefits in January, so you're under the $23,400 for the entire year. Good question, though. Thank you. That's all the different permutations, that, yeah. Learn how to trade stocks. The capital gains from has no effect on Social Security benefits. Yes, it will impact the taxes you pay, but it won't affect the income limit if you draw 62. Yes, stocks and stuff like that, your pensions, Social Security benefits, unearned income does not figure into the earnings limits, the monthly earnings limit or the annual earnings limit. So Can I still work and get retirement? Yep. If you're over your full retirement age, $1 billion a month. Before, this year's $23,400. Let's see here. Does Social Security put a pause on processing application for benefits until the government funding is passed? No. What's up, Doug? When they shut down the government, Social Security is considered essential services because people need their checks. So Social Security has always historically been allowed to continue working. There are certain things that it does shut down, giving out Social Security cards and, work reports and stuff like that. But, people need their checks. So it's never really shut down like that. Deb Moon, you answered my question yesterday about filing under my spouse's record. You really eased my mind. Thank you so much for your knowledge. You are so welcome. I appreciate you adding that in there. Thank you. Patty, shouldn't Advantage plans / supplement plans be tax deductible? My share of premiums were pre-tax when I worked. Why is it different? Yeah, I never work for the IRS. So, but all time, yeah, our healthcare system is just terrible. Even the way we tax all of that. So, hey, Bella, Social Security is your trust fund. Yes. You pay into FICA all your life and wages. It's your money, not a government handout. 100%. The only exception is SSI, that is, needs-based, welfare-based program. But all the rest of it, FICA-based, 6.2 that goes into Social Security, the 1.45 that you pay into Medicare. Yes. And those Medicare Advantage plans that, 51% of people out there choose a Medicare Advantage plan. Always, always, always check to see if a Medicare supplement plan is best for you, a plan N or a plan G. And if it ain't, because usually it's a budget type issue, then Medicare Advantage. Okay, fine. But all of those extra benefits, the bells and whistles that those Medicare Advantage plans, dangle in front of you to try to get you a Medicare, to enroll in their plan, you paid for that. So if you're like, no, I didn't. It's zero premium. Yes, you did. You just paid for it decades ago. So all those decades you paid into FICA taxes, the Medicare FICA taxes, that money is in, a chock full of nuts can out in the back of the White House and wherever it is, in the bank, in the Treasury. And then when you sign up for Medicare Advantage XYZ, the CEO of that company takes his little begging bowl to Washington and said, hey, I just signed up Bella or Bill or Bob. Give us the FICA money that they paid all those decades. And then the government gives that company a little bit every year to take care of your benefits. So that's where at the company, so that extra dental, vision, hearing, gym membership, transportation, the grocery cards, whatever it is, those companies aren't giving you any of that stuff for free. They're giving you that money back that you paid. That's your money. So I always say in retirement, you have two missions in retirement, or you have one of two missions. Number one is to go out there and record those videos and help your friends and family, as we talked about. And the number two thing is to make sure you get everything you paid into for decades and decades and decades, from Social Security, from Medicare, from a Medicare Advantage, from your Part D plan, whatever the case may be, because that is your money. That is your money. Your job is to get it back. So, Yolanda, if I get survivor benefits because it was more than my own Social Security and I am disabled, am I entitled to any kind of disability benefits? Okay, so you get survivor benefits because, okay. All right, there's a lot of variables here. It depends on your age. If you are already receiving Medicare, or you're going to receive Medicare within the next couple of years, then filing for disability benefits on your own is not going to help you, because it doesn't sound like it's more. The survivor benefits are more. So, but let's say you're receiving survivor benefits and you're 61 years old. So you're getting higher benefits on your survivor benefits. But you still have to wait 4 more years to get your Medicare started. But if you receive disability benefits on your own record, then your Medicare will start within 2 years, a couple of years, 3 years earlier. So that's something you need to consider. But if you're already receiving Medicare, or you're 63 and 1 month, then it doesn't matter. You're going to get Medicare in a couple of months or a couple of years anyway. So, but you're already getting survivor benefits, a higher amount. But remember, you're getting survivor benefits now. And if you haven't touched benefits on your own record, even though the survivor benefits are more, maybe they're just a little bit more than your retirement benefits. Because you haven't started your retirement benefits are continue to increase, and every single month. So check every now and then and say, hey, next year benefits on my own account are going to be more, and they will stop increasing like that until you're 70 years old. You get the maximum delayed retirement credits. So every year until you turn 70, or call up and say, hey, will they ever be higher? If they say, oh yeah, they'll never be higher, then you're good where you're at. So, all right, that is it for today. Somebody just popped up a question, a recording, a video. So I will answer that one tonight. If anybody does a recording and asks individual questions, please turn the volume off in the back, so we can hear you, and go out there in the community and help as many people as you possibly can. We've got the best community on the internet, and that's what we do. So, all right, y'all take care. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome night, and